You heard me correctly. What if I told you that everything you believe to be true about Jim Jones and Chrissy is untrue? What if I told you that all in one motion, Camron, yes, all they had constructed was destroyed by the same Camron that we are all familiar with when he joined their idyllic little environment? He shattered everything. Courtroom, the truths he just revealed will astound you, I swear. But here's the twist. Chrissy, the man we all consider to be Jim Jones, is unbreakable. You won't even recognize her after this. She believes she could get away with it, but now that he had lost everything in public, the walls surrounding him collapsed, leaving him helpless. Do you genuinely believe that Camron recently revealed a scandal that would you conclude that Chrissy was the mastermind, and that Jim Jones was unaware that the situation was more worse than you could have imagined? This isn't your usual controversy with a celebrity, it's the most contentious issue of the year. What happens if a trusted person betrays you in the most blatant way possible? Everything you've worked so hard to achieve falls apart. Are you prepared to be astounded? This is only the start, so remain where you are. As the days went by and the situation became more complicated, everyone appeared to be waiting for the next piece of the puzzle to fit together. Would Melly avoid penalty? Or would the evidence against him be too strong? Their great interest in the trial was only heightened by each new rumor and leak. Even so, the amount of video footage that had surfaced was astounding, and it lacked the clarity that everyone had hoped for. It showed two individuals in a car who could have been Melly with his purported partner, Portland. However, the lack of specific information made a positive identification impossible. Would this clear Melly's name, smoking gun, or was it merely an additional piece of evidence that would complicate matters? By asserting that the video was too hazy to be helpful, the defense team took advantage of this misunderstanding in court. Instead of providing a truthful narrative of what happened, the prosecution refused to concede, and used the video to present even another try to mislead the jury and cast uncertainty in order to influence the public's perception that Melly was present at the scene at a critical moment, even if it wasn't immediately obvious. What was according to Melly's defense? Even Marie's evidence, which some of his former co-workers had disclosed that Melly had previously made covered threats, was concerning. According to them, Melly had been enraged and displeased at being tricked, and some even said he had promised to do anything about it. Did this portend something far worse? Or was it simply the mindset of a man who is innocent? And if things didn't go his way, Nelly's old pal Portland would take matters into his own hands. As though it couldn't be coming very worse, the co-defendant finally took action after weeks of speculation about a potential plea deal. Unexpectedly, Portland's defense team announced that he was in talks. Portland had been the final line of defense for Melly's story. As a result, a reduced sentence in exchange for evidence seriously harmed the prosecution's submission of Melly's case. In opposition to him, because the prosecution had an insider with first-hand knowledge of the circumstances leading up to Portland's potential flipping, the courtroom was on fire. As a wave of shocked rapper fans followed Portland's conduct, the tension was evident. Additionally, the Free Melly effort appeared to be waning as more and more individuals speculated that Melly's best friend was going to flip against him in exchange for a reduced sentence. Thus his defense would end more. A former member of Melly's inner circle came forward as a whistleblower, claiming to own first-hand knowledge of Melly's role in the aftermath and have seen Melly destroy evidence when his innocence began to be questioned. The whistleblower received anonymity to safeguard them. They further claimed that Melly had admitted this to them in private discussions. The frightening proof provided by the whistleblowers appeared to validate the darkest suspicions of those who thought Melly was to blame. The defense, of course, made an effort to discredit the whistleblower by saying that they were merely a resentful employee searching for both money and attention. However, it became increasingly evident that the walls were closing in on Melly with each new piece of evidence against him in the expanding list of witnesses. The last straw was a publicly released video in which Melly appeared to discuss a plea agreement with his attorney. If Melly was truly the tape was disastrous when considering a plea deal, it would demonstrate that he was willing to plead guilty to less charges in order to avoid receiving a life sentence. The prosecution quickly utilized the audio as evidence that Melly knew he was guilty and was attempting to change the jury's verdict by confessing, dodge the repercussions of his actions by reaching a consensus. The defense, of course, denied the audio's authenticity. However, the harm had already been done by that point, and the public was starting to doubt every aspect of Melly's situation. Supporters were divided. Some continued to support him, arguing that the system was biased against him. Others began to feel the weight of the evidence against him, despite his claims that he was the victim of a great conspiracy. Is it possible that everyone's sole worry, as the trial came to a finish, was whether Melly would be released or spend the remainder of her life in prison? At this point, the court drama had drawn attention from all over the world. Every time there was a fresh, dismal event in the case, and the media could not cease documenting this spectacle, influencers and celebrities shared their thoughts. The world appeared to be awaiting the ultimate decision about is Melly guilty or innocent. But the most startling of all was Melly's statement to the court. In the last moments of the trial, even as the case reached a breaking point, Melly stood up to defend himself. His passionate declaration, in which he insisted on his innocence and denied any complicity, included details about his upbringing. It seemed to have an effect on certain individuals in the courtroom due to his difficulties and his unwavering efforts to act morally. But was that sufficient? Though the world will soon learn if Melly's fervent appeal to the judge was sufficient to persuade a jury of his innocence. As the trial came to an end, the jury pondered, and everyone watched to see if Melly would be found guilty or if he, despite the overwhelming evidence against him, he would never be released again. In this case, one thing was certain to affect everything, regardless of the result. The story of W. Melly was more rather than a trial. It was about a system in which the realms of fame and fortune and a superstar interact in unexpected ways. It was supposed to be the final act, but whether the truth would eventually surface remained to be seen. What happens when the truth is revealed? Begin revealing. Suddenly, you are at the center of an unmanageable scandal. We will also learn about it. The conflict between Jim and Jones extends beyond the personal betrayal of Chrissy Lampkin. This is a full-fledged public breakdown. Oh no, let's look into the disaster that's making waves on social media and other platforms. Camron was discussing more than just exercising control, financial manipulation and relationships. He revealed an enterprise based on lies, deceit and manipulation while he was testifying. The public's lack of knowledge about all that Camron withheld. Court documents were allegedly in Camron's possession. The secrets are gradually destroying Jim and Chrissy's ship. One by one, he has been letting them come to the surface. The fact that investigative reporters currently have access to documents is startling for one reason. Jim was not the only person who made decisions regarding his finances and career. Rather than being merely a helpful girlfriend, Chrissy was the woman who had established herself. She was the one who made the crucial decisions, handled the money, and shaped their public image, while Jim's ride or die secretly controlled every facet of their relationship behind the scenes story, and that's only the beginning. As you can see, Jim may have been the one who rapped and delighted the audience during his concerts, but when it came to the money, they were talking about more than a few endorsement deals. The person with her hands on everything was the real wealth, Chrissy. She was allegedly the mastermind behind all of their business dealings, using shell corporations, offshore accounts, and a network of hidden assets. Jim, on the other hand, was preoccupied with his work and believed Chrissy supported him. Camron wasn't finished yet though. No unidentified individuals when he began discussing the negative aspects of his relationship. Others familiar with the matter asserted that Chrissy wasn't only in charge of Jim's finances, she was also helping to control his public image. To preserve the impression of the ideal pair, Chrissy planned every action and choice he made. Over time, they had changed. Now let's discuss the crucial money laundering aspect of this case. Camron discovered that Jim and Christy were engaged in some dubious financial activities. I assure you, transactions. It is questionable that funds intended for their company were purportedly transferred into shell corporations through covert accounts and even utilized for personal, non-work-related activities. Even worse, it wasn't even an error. Rather, it was a cunning scheme to conceal their wealth from the general population. Camron also refused to let them get rid of it. He revealed everything that happened in that courtroom, including their covert financial schemes and Chrissy's deceit of Jim. However, those same unnamed sources claim that the couple's suspicious actions continued. Secrets weren't limited to the past several months or years. They returned all the way to the beginning. Chrissy had been using Jim as a pawn in her complex scheme to amass fortune and power since the beginning of their relationship. Jim Jones is not your typical famous person. He is a well-known rapper, businessman, and member of the hip-hop community. This was a planned, not a failed love story, but a plot to manipulate Jim's life and fate. Jim's career growth, diligence, and community standing are all painfully poetic, but Chrissy was quietly making decisions behind closed doors that affected his every action as well as their financial destiny. But wait, we're not done yet. Not yet. Financial exploitation and marital conflict are only two aspects of this problem. On social media, the general population is also active. When Camron revealed the truth about the actual circumstances, the people went crazy. And that's what makes it intriguing. Fans started to turn on an unprecedented magnitude against Jim and Chrissy. Before the shock waves of the internet became visible, everyone, from hip-hop enthusiasts to onlookers, began investigating their past and exposing all of their dubious actions. Was what we saw on Camron said the response was yes when people began to ask. Next was the section that really got to me. Jim Jones was no longer in command. His empire began to fall apart once the TV show ended and trial disclosures were made public. And even his closest allies began to turn against him, questioning whether Chrissy had tricked them. The damage was evident and the treachery was genuine. But everyone is still worried about Jim's prospects. These insights may actually be harmful. Jim is, in fact, a warrior and a survivor. But this goes beyond a conflict with Camron or a fictional TV show. Even worse, his entire public persona is being destroyed by the person he trusted the most. If you believe Jim Jones is having difficulty at now that everyone is doubting everything he has ever said and done, he has lost control of the narrative. After all of that, Chrissy isn't exactly winning popularity contests. Was made public, and her true self is beginning to be recognized by admirers and even some of her friends. Wait to see how she handles things. It really is. The backlash will only intensify, but we're just getting started. The pushback from the public has already started. Additionally, I can assure you that this scandal won't end quickly. The more people discuss it, the more secrets will surface. This roller coaster is only beginning to begin, so cling on. Keep an eye out now that we have examined the problem. You never know what will occur. Let's talk about it, as the aftermath is when things get even hotter. The courtroom drama, the lies, and the financial secrets. Initially, after the debate and the public turmoil, Jim Jones's name is totally ruined. He moved from being a well-liked member of the hip-hop community to being ridiculed. The true effects are only now beginning to become apparent, and rumors are spreading swiftly. You understand how the internet works. Yet one error, one shocking discovery, and you're reduced to a hashtag. Jim Jones was a con artist. Even worse, when street cred, loyalty, and respect have been the cornerstones of your whole career. When your closest friends turn against you, it's like having the same individuals stab you in the back. You can't just move on from someone who is meant to support you. The most depressing aspect, however, is that his career is more than just secret, it's professional as well. Not even his tunes are appearing on the charts. His brand is failing, and his travels have been curtailed. There has been a sharp decline in ticket and back sales. These days, nobody wants to be associated with a man who is perceived as being weak, crafty, and possibly involved in dubious activities. In the hip-hop industry, nobody wants to do it. Let's face it, you want to be the best, but you also lose all the power you once believed you had as a rapper with a few hits. Today, it's all about surviving the harm to your reputation. Jim won't be able to handle the negative effects of this, I promise. She's not much better. In fact, you should reconsider if you believed her part in this play would go unnoticed. Jim has dragged her through the mire. Although Chrissy was allegedly in command of the show behind the scenes, she is now being revealed as the true mastermind. The feelings of that ideal couple were exactly that ideal behind the lies and deceit. Even worse, she may have started it even though she may have deceived the public for years due to as she is seen by the public as nothing more than a cunning person, and they think that she is using Jim as a puppet in a bigger scheme of deceit that is falling apart more quickly than a house of cards. The consequences are now being borne by her. However, don't rely on my sources. Here, let's discuss the implications. I'm referring to actual insider information. Furthermore, Chrissy is not the target of any retaliation. Aside from the internet trolls, who are like Chrissy's exposure so much, the jokes fans are demanding answers and holding her responsible for the way she managed Jim's money and career. Every tweet, meme, and comment indicates that the world has had enough of her. She is no longer viewed as the devoted girlfriend supporting her significant other. Instead, she is portrayed as a cunning person who exploited their relationship for her own benefit. Gain is a recurrent narrative. Let's discuss the legal repercussions, because, well, things are getting serious. The courtroom spectacle generated some serious legal issues in addition to revealing private information. We are talking about possible money laundering, financial fraud, and corporate transaction manipulation. You can also wager your least amount of money that things will get ugly, and the cops will start looking into it. Authorities are apparently examining data as part of ongoing investigations into the couple's financial transactions, money laundering activities, based on data from anonymous sources, offshore accounts, and hidden assets. Moreover, the media is not the only source of these claims. Indeed, inquiries are in progress. We might face serious charges, such as tax evasion and possibly criminal conspiracy, if the accusations are accurate. Things are getting a lot more complicated these days. Even though Jen Jones is no longer in command, Chrissy is still in trouble. Those who are aware of the circumstances assert that she has already planned to break off her relationship with Jim. You are aware that the person in control typically leaves first when things become tough, by using Jim's profession as a springboard for her own empire. Chrissy has been accused of exploiting him. But what happens if a firm fails? You can be sure that when she does, the repercussions go on to the next stage. There is more to Jim and Chrissy's breakup than just a personal one. Long-term consequences of this public and professional breakup. According to those who already claim that things are becoming ugly behind the scenes, what does this mean for Jim and Chrissy's future? We know that their relationship, business endeavors, and financial matters are all failing, and the animosity between them is growing every day. There is little doubt that the path ahead will be difficult and lengthy. They have brought about a disaster that will never be forgotten. The public closely monitors them at all times. As a result, they are ready for what lies ahead, since the truth is always able to emerge. And in this, if it has already been released to the public, should we make a decision? Jim and Chrissy believes they could fool everyone, although in the end, they were only successful in we are all seeing the demise of everything. Additionally, a couple's relationship failure isn't the only problem of the day. It has to do with a company based on deceit and deceit. Will Jim's ability to assist Chrissy in moving on?